The letter trembled in my hands, its crisp edges mocking my shattered dreams. "We are pleased to offer you admission to Harvard Business School." I didn't bother reading further before ripping it into tiny pieces, watching them scatter across my desk like expensive confetti. My mother's voice still rang in my ears from our phone call 10 minutes ago. "Josephine, darling, we need to discuss something important. Your father and I have decided to invest everything into Evelyn's wedding. It's going to be the social event of the season. I'm Joe. Just Joe. The invisible daughter who spent the last 4 years climbing the corporate ladder at Morgan Stanley while perfect Evelyn fluttered from one expensive hobby to another." "But Mom, what about my Master of Business Administration? You promised." "Oh honey, you're doing fine at your job. Evelyn needs this. Daniel's family expects a certain standard. You understand, don't you?" I understood perfectly. I always had. My phone buzzed again, probably another excited message from Evelyn about her 12-tiered wedding cake or custom-designed dress. I let it go to voicemail. "Carter." Paul's voice cut through my thoughts. He stood at my office door, concern etched on his face. "You okay? You look like you're planning someone's murder." "Just my sister's wedding," I muttered, sweeping the torn acceptance letter into my trash bin. "Ah, the famous Evelyn's big day. How many horses are pulling her carriage now?" 8. Apparently, 6 wasn't enough for the future Mrs. Daniel Reed. Paul whistled low. "That's excessive. That's Evelyn." I forced a smile. "Hey, want to hear something funny? Remember that Master of Business Administration program I've been killing myself to get into? Harvard. Did you get in? Doesn't matter anymore. Mom and Dad just pulled my funding. Every penny's going to Evelyn's fairy tale wedding." Paul's expression darkened. "They can't do that to you. They just did." I stood up, straightening my blazer. 26 years of being the responsible one, the steady one, the one who never asked for anything. And this is what I get. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Grandfather Henry. Unlike my parents, he'd always seen me, really seen me. "Hey, Grandpa. Your mother called me, Pumpkin. Told me about their decision." I swallowed hard. "It's fine. I'll figure something out." "No, it's not fine." His voice carried that steel I'd always admired. "Come to dinner tonight. Martha and I need to discuss something with you." After hanging up, I caught my reflection in the office window. Something had changed in my eyes, a hardness I'd never noticed before. Paul was still watching me. "What are you going to do?" I picked up a family photo from my desk, Mom, Dad, and Evelyn beaming at some charity gala. I wasn't in it. I'd been working late that night, as usual. You know what the funny thing is? I placed the photo face down. Daniel Reed isn't who everyone thinks he is. I've seen things, heard things. He's using Evelyn to get to Dad's business connections. Joe. Don't worry, Paul. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. I'm just going to sit back and watch while karma does its job. And maybe help karma along a little bit. The market reports on my screen blurred as I thought about my grandparents' dinner invitation. They'd always been different, always supported me, believed in me. Maybe they had a plan. Or maybe they just wanted to comfort their disappointed granddaughter. Either way, I had decisions to make. Big ones. My phone buzzed one more time, a text from Evelyn, "OMG sis. Wait till you see my tiara. Cost more than your yearly bonus. Face blowing a kiss." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and started researching Daniel Reed's business history. If my family wanted to bet everything on Evelyn's perfect wedding, they should at least know what kind of man they were betting on. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to be right. My grandparents' Victorian mansion loomed before me, its familiar warmth a stark contrast to the ice forming in my chest. Through the window, I could see them waiting, Grandfather Henry in his leather armchair, Grandmother Martha arranging teacups with military precision. The door opened before I could knock. "There's my warrior," Grandfather said, pulling me into a bear hug that smelled of pipe tobacco and old books. "I brought wine," I said, holding up the bottle. "Figured we might need it." "Oh, we'll need something stronger than that." Grandmother's eyes glinted with that sharp intelligence I'd inherited. "Your mother called again. She's hosting a small engagement dinner next week. Only 200 guests." I sank into my usual spot on their velvet sofa. "Let me guess, I'm expected to attend." "And contribute to the wedding fund," Grandfather added, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Robert seems to have forgotten who built that company he's so proud of." The tea service clinked as Grandmother poured. "Your father called the bank today, trying to access your trust fund." My head snapped up. "What?" "Don't worry," Grandfather said. "I made sure that money stayed where it belongs, with you. Though Robert seems to think Evelyn's wedding is a family emergency worthy of breaking the terms." A knock at the door interrupted us. Through the frosted glass, I recognized my father's silhouette. "Speaking of the devil," Grandmother muttered, straightening her spine. "Henry, perhaps it's time." "Not yet, Martha. Let's see how this plays out." The door opened, and Robert Carter strode in, all Brooks Brothers suit and corporate authority. "Father, we need to discuss." He stopped short at the sight of me. "Josephine. What are you doing here? Having tea with my grandparents? Or is that being redistributed to Evelyn too? Your attitude isn't helping matters." He loosened his tie. "We're trying to secure Evelyn's future. The Reeds are." "Are what, Dad? Rich? Connected? Or just better than us Carters?" "Daniel Reed represents opportunities that could transform our family's position in." "Your family's position," I corrected. "I'm just the backup daughter, remember?" Grandfather cleared his throat. "Robert, perhaps you should know something about Daniel Reed's company." "I've done my due diligence, Father. Unlike some people, I understand the importance of proper vetting." My phone buzzed, a text from Paul, "Found something about Reed. Call me ASAP." "Did you know," I said carefully, "that Daniel's last 3 business ventures ended in bankruptcy? Or that his current company is hemorrhaging money?" Father's face reddened. "Those are complex business situations you couldn't possibly understand." "I work in financial analysis, Dad. Understanding complex business situations is literally my job. A job you wouldn't have without our name opening doors. A name I earned by graduating top of my class while Evelyn was busy planning charity galas." Grandmother set down her teacup with a sharp clink. "Robert, that's enough. Jo has earned everything she has. Maybe if you spent less time planning weddings and more time looking at your company's books." "Martha," Grandfather warned, but his eyes were calculating. Father straightened his jacket. "The engagement dinner is next Thursday at 7. Wear something appropriate, Josephine. And try to look happy for your sister." After he left, I slumped back into the sofa. He didn't even ask about Harvard. "No," Grandfather said softly. "But we did." He exchanged a look with Grandmother. "We have a proposition for you, Jo. One that might solve several problems at once." My phone buzzed again, another text from Paul. "Reed's company isn't just failing. It's a front. You need to see these documents." Grandmother reached for a folder on the side table. Before we show you this, you need to understand something. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about becoming powerful enough that they can't ignore you anymore. I thought about the torn acceptance letter in my office trash can, about years of being overlooked, about Daniel Reed's suspicious perfect timing. "I'm listening," I said, and watched my grandparents smile like chess masters about to reveal their winning move. The documents scattered across my desk painted an ugly picture. Shell companies, fake investors, borrowed names. Daniel Reed's business empire was built on sand and lies. Paul sat across from me, his tie loosened, watching as I processed each damning detail. "The timing's perfect," he said. "He's burning through cash, needs a fresh injection of capital. And along comes my sister. Complete with our family's business connections." My fingers traced the edge of a particularly incriminating bank statement. "Did you verify these sources?" "Triple-checked. Your friend at the SEC came through. Reed's company is 3 months away from total collapse." I leaned back, remembering last night's dinner with my grandparents. Their proposition still rang in my ears: "Take over the company, Joe. We'll back you completely." My phone lit up, Evelyn calling. I let it ring. "You're not going to tell her?" Paul asked. "Not yet. I need to." The office door burst open. Evelyn swept in, a vision in designer white, trailing the scent of expensive perfume. "Why aren't you answering your phone? I've been trying to reach you all morning." I swept the documents into a folder. "Working. Some of us still do that. Don't be bitter, it doesn't suit you." She perched on my desk, oblivious to the papers she was crushing. "Daniel's throwing an engagement dinner tonight. Last-minute thing at Le Bernardin. You have to come." "Have to. Mother insists. Besides," she lowered her voice, "Daniel specifically asked for you to be there. He says you two got off on the wrong foot." Paul caught my eye. I kept my face neutral. "Did he now? He wants to make things right. Show you he's worthy of being part of the family." She grabbed my hands. "Please, Joe. For me." The irony of her begging almost made me laugh. Instead, I squeezed her hands back. "What time?" 8 o'clock. "Where's something nice?" She kissed my cheek and floated out, leaving behind a wake of expensive scent and ignored warning signs. Paul waited until her clicks faded. "He knows we're onto him." "Of course he does." I pulled out the folder again. "The question is, what's his play?" "It's a trap." "Obviously." I smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. "The question is, whose trap?" That evening, Le Bernardin's private dining room felt like a stage set for a particularly vicious play. Daniel held court at the head of the table, my parents hanging on his every word. Evelyn sat beside him, glowing with practiced radiance. "Joe," Daniel rose as I approached. "I saved you a seat right here." He gestured to the chair beside him, not next to Evelyn, but on his other side. I sat, noting how he'd positioned me, back to the wall, away from the exits. "Amateur. I hear you've been asking about my business ventures," he said softly, while the others chatted. "Quite thoroughly, in fact. Just looking out for my sister's interests." "Are you?" His smile never reached his eyes. "Or are you just bitter that mommy and daddy finally chose their favorite?" My wine glass froze halfway to my lips. "Careful, Daniel. You're showing your cards." "So are you." He leaned closer. "I know about your little investigation. But here's what you don't know, your father's company. It's not as stable as everyone thinks. One wrong move, one whisper of scandal. Well, you're the financial analyst. You do the math. The threat hung between us like poison. You'd destroy my whole family just to save yourself. I'd do whatever it takes to win. His perfect smile returned as he raised his voice. Everyone. I'd like to make a toast. The table fell silent. My phone buzzed, a text from Grandfather Henry. Remember what we discussed. Sometimes the best revenge is patience. Daniel stood, champagne glass glinting. To family. To love. And to new beginnings. I raised my glass with the others, mind racing. Daniel thought he had me cornered, but he'd forgotten something crucial. I'd spent my whole life being underestimated by people exactly like him. Let him think he'd won. Let him believe I'd back down to protect my family. After all, the best traps are the ones your target walks into willingly. The city lights blurred through the taxi window as Paul and I left another late strategy session at the office. 3 days had passed since Daniel's veiled threat at Le Bernardin, and sleep had become a distant memory. You're sure about these offshore accounts? I asked, reviewing the documents on my phone. Positive. But Joe. Paul hesitated. If we expose this, your father's company takes a hit too. The connections run deep. The taxi stopped at a red light, casting a crimson glow across our faces. My grandparents think we should wait, build a stronger case. And what do you think? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Evelyn. I almost ignored it until I saw her follow-up text, emergency. Please. I found her sitting on the steps of our childhood home, mascara streaked down her face. She looked up as I approached, suddenly appearing much younger than her 24 years. I wasn't sure you'd come, she whispered. I'm still your sister. I sat beside her, our shoulders touching. What happened? I found something in Daniel's study. Papers, phone records. She pulled out her phone, hands shaking. He's been talking to Father's board members. Private meetings, secret deals. I thought he was just being supportive, but... My throat tightened. There's more, isn't there? I overheard him on the phone. He said. She swallowed hard. He said once we're married, he'll have enough leverage to force a merger. Something about hostile takeover provisions. The pieces clicked into place. Daniel wasn't just after connections, he was orchestrating a corporate raid, using Evelyn as his Trojan horse. Why didn't you tell Mother and Father? Evelyn's laugh was bitter. I tried. Mother said I was being dramatic. Father said I couldn't possibly understand complex business matters. Sounds familiar. I'm sorry, Joe. She turned to me, eyes glistening. I never realized. All these years, when they dismissed you. Don't. I stood up abruptly. This isn't about that. My phone buzzed, a text from Grandfather Henry, board meeting tomorrow. Daniel's making his move early. Be ready. What are you going to do? Evelyn asked. The question hung in the air as another car pulled up. Daniel stepped out, his perfect smile faltering when he saw us. Darling, I've been looking everywhere for you. He climbed the steps, placing a possessive hand on Evelyn's shoulder. Your mother's worried sick. Is she? I asked. Or is the board meeting tomorrow making you nervous? His smile tightened. I see you've been busy. So have you. Those offshore accounts must take a lot of maintenance. Careful, Josephine. His voice dropped to a whisper. Remember our conversation about family loyalty? Funny you should mention loyalty. I pulled out my phone, showing him the documents Paul had uncovered. These show quite a different story. Daniel's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. You really want to play this game? I own half your father's board already. One word from me. Daniel? Evelyn's voice cracked. What's he talking about? He recovered quickly, reaching for her hand. Business matters, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about. That's your mistake, I said quietly. You underestimate her, just like everyone else does. But Evelyn's smarter than you think. Aren't you, sis? Evelyn pulled her hand away from Daniel, standing up straighter. I found the papers in your study. I know what you're planning. The facade cracked completely. Daniel's face contorted with rage, but before he could speak, another car approached, my grandparents' Bentley. Perfect timing, I said. Shall we discuss those business matters now? All of us. Daniel's eyes darted between us, calculating odds and exits. This isn't over. No, I agreed, watching him retreat to his car. It's just beginning. Evelyn touched my arm. Joe, I'm scared. What happens now? I thought about the Harvard acceptance letter, about years of being overlooked, about Daniel's threats and my father's blindness. Now we show them exactly what the Carter sisters can do when we work together. The Bentley's doors opened, and I saw determination in my grandparents' faces that matched my own. Tomorrow's board meeting wouldn't go quite as Daniel planned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold, it's served as a family. The boardroom felt like a pressure cooker, with Daniel seated at one end and my father at the other. I sat between my grandparents, watching the power play unfold through the steam of my untouched coffee. The merger proposal is sound, Daniel was saying, his confidence unwavering. Carter Industries needs this injection of fresh capital and new leadership. Fresh capital. Grandfather Henry's voice cut through the murmurs. Like the capital you've been channeling through those offshore accounts. Daniel's smile flickered. I'm not sure what you're implying. Show them, I said quietly, sliding the folders across the polished table. Show them exactly what kind of leadership you're offering. My father snatched the documents, his face darkening as he read. These allegations are true, Evelyn's voice rang out as she entered the room. Mother trailed behind her, looking confused and angry. Evelyn, darling, Daniel stood, this isn't the place. It's exactly the place. She moved to stand beside me. Tell them about the hostile takeover provisions, Daniel. Tell them how you plan to use our marriage to seize control. The board members began whispering among themselves. I watched my father's face transition from confusion to rage. Robert, my mother touched his arm, surely this is just a misunderstanding. Is it? I pulled out my phone, playing the recording Paul had helped me secure. Daniel's voice filled the room, discussing his plans with one of his conspirators. The color drained from Daniel's face. This is a setup. Robert, you know me. Do we? Grandfather stood slowly. Because our investigation shows your company is 3 months from bankruptcy. Your last 3 ventures ended in fraud investigations. And now you're targeting our family. Your family. Daniel laughed, a harsh sound. You mean the family that throws away talent like garbage? That ignores their own daughter's potential while throwing millions at a wedding. He turned to my father. You never even read Joe's business proposals, did you? Too busy planning Evelyn's perfect life. The room fell silent. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. That's enough, Mother said sharply. This is hardly the time. When is the time? I stood, hands flat on the table. When Daniel destroys the company. When Evelyn's life is ruined. When does this family finally wake up? Joe, Paul appeared at the door, tablet in hand. The SEC just confirmed. They're opening an investigation into Reed's companies. Daniel's composure cracked completely. You think you've won? This company's already compromised. Half the board signed deals. Invalid deals, Grandmother Martha interrupted, producing another set of documents. Made under false pretenses. Our lawyers are quite clear on that point. The board members began distancing themselves from Daniel, but I barely noticed. I was watching my father, seeing him truly look at me for the first time in years. "You did all this?" he asked quietly. "Put together the investigation, tracked the fraud." "She did more than that," grandfather said. "She developed a complete restructuring plan for the company. The one you dismissed without reading last year." Daniel made a move toward the door, but security was already there. As they led him out, he caught my eye. "You'll regret this. All of you." "No," Evelyn said firmly. "The only thing I regret is not seeing you for what you are sooner." She turned to me. "Thank you, Joe. For everything." The boardroom slowly emptied, leaving just our family. Mother sat heavily in a chair, while father stared out the window. "The Harvard acceptance," he said finally. "You really earned that on your own." "She earned everything on her own," grandmother said. "Maybe it's time you both saw that." My phone buzzed, a message from Paul. "SEC wants to meet. Ready to finish this?" I looked at my family, Evelyn's grateful smile, my parents' dawning realization, my grandparents' proud expressions. The revenge I'd wanted had transformed into something else, a chance to rebuild, to prove myself, to change the family's future. "Yes," I texted back. "But this time, we do it my way." Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's becoming the person they should have believed in all along. The SEC investigation had gone public, and Daniel's response was swift and brutal. I stared at the morning headlines splashed across every financial news site. Carter Industries faces fraud allegations, whistleblower claims family conspiracy. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. Paul was the only call I answered. "He's claiming your family orchestrated the whole thing," Paul said. "That you fabricated evidence to stop the merger because you were jealous of Evelyn's engagement. And people are believing him. Stocks down 30%. Board members are jumping ship." I watched from my office window as reporters swarmed the building entrance. Daniel had played his hand perfectly, turning my revenge into a weapon against my entire family. My father's secretary appeared at my door. "Your father wants to see you. Now." The walk to his office felt like a death march. Inside, I found not just my father, but my mother, Evelyn, and 3 board members I didn't recognize. "Explain yourself," father's voice was ice. "I tried to tell you about Daniel. By destroying our company." Mother cut in. "By dragging our name through the mud." "The evidence is real," I insisted. "The SEC confirmation has been withdrawn," one of the board members said. "Mr. Reed provided documentation showing how your evidence was manipulated." My stomach dropped. "That's impossible. Paul and I verified everything." "Paul Mitchell." Father laughed bitterly. "Your accomplice who mysteriously disappeared this morning after withdrawing all his investments." The room spun. "Paul couldn't have. Wouldn't have. Daniel warned us about him," Evelyn said softly. "How Paul was using you to orchestrate a hostile takeover. You're believing Daniel over me. Still. The facts speak for themselves," Father stood. "The board has called an emergency meeting. We're facing potential criminal charges because of your vendetta." "Robert," grandfather Henry's voice came from the doorway. "Think carefully about your next move." "I have," Father pulled out a document. "Joe, you're terminated from your position, effective immediately. Security will escort you out." "You can't." "I can and I will. You're no longer welcome at this company or in this family until you make this right." Mother wouldn't meet my eyes. Evelyn stared at her hands. The board members watched with cold satisfaction. Make it right? I laughed, a hollow sound. You mean let Daniel destroy everything grandfather built? Let him marry Evelyn for her shares. Keep pretending we're the perfect family. Get out, father pointed to the door. Before I call security. I turned to leave, then stopped. Grandfather, I'm sorry. I tried to protect the company. I know, pumpkin. His eyes held a strange glint. Sometimes you have to lose everything to win. Security waited outside. As they led me through the lobby, I saw Daniel speaking to reporters, playing the role of the wronged future son-in-law perfectly. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. The message contained only an address and a time, 9 p.m. Come alone. P. Rain started falling as I reached the street. No car, no job, no family. Everything I'd tried to protect was slipping away. Another message arrived, from Grandmother Martha. Remember what we taught you about chess. Sometimes you sacrifice your queen to win the game. I looked back at the building that had been my second home, at the empire my grandfather had built. At the family that had finally shown their true colors. Daniel caught my eye through the crowd and smiled, that same smug smile from the engagement dinner. He thought he'd won. Maybe he had. But grandmother was right about chess. And I wasn't done playing yet. I pulled up the address Paul had sent. If he had betrayed me, I needed to know why. If he hadn't, then maybe this wasn't checkmate after all. The rain soaked through my clothes as I walked away from Carter Industries, leaving behind everything I'd ever known. Sometimes you have to lose it all to see what really matters. And sometimes rock bottom is just the foundation you need to build something new. The address led to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the financial district. Paul waited inside, surrounded by servers and computer screens, his tie loose around his neck. You're late, he said, not looking up from his laptop. Betrayal tends to slow you down. I kept my distance, scanning for exits. Was any of it real, or were you working with Daniel from the start? Neither. He turned one of the screens toward me. Look familiar. Lines of code scrolled past, but I recognized the pattern, Carter Industries' trading algorithm, the one that had made my father's company millions. Daniel didn't just want the company, Paul said. He wanted this. The algorithm your grandfather developed 30 years ago. A door opened behind me. Grandfather Henry stepped out of the shadows, followed by Grandmother Martha. You're early, pumpkin, grandfather said. Daniel's not due for another 10 minutes. My head spun. You're all working together. We needed Daniel to think he'd won, grandmother explained. To make him careless enough to reveal his real plan. Paul typed rapidly. The algorithm was never about trading. Your grandfather built it to identify financial fraud. Daniel's been trying to crack it for years, to hide his illegal operations. And now he's walking into a trap, I whispered, understanding dawning. But my parents, Evelyn, are exactly where they need to be, grandfather said. Sometimes the best way to protect people is to let them face the truth themselves. The warehouse door creaked open. Daniel strode in, followed by two men in expensive suits. Right on time, he smiled, then froze at the sight of my grandparents. What is this? Chess, I said quietly. Sacrificing the queen to win the game. The SEC isn't withdrawing their investigation, Paul announced, still typing. They're expanding it. Your entire network is being exposed right now. Daniel's smile turned predatory. With what evidence? I destroyed everything you had. No, grandfather stepped forward. You destroyed what we wanted you to find. The real evidence was always in the algorithm, tracking every fraudulent transaction you tried to hide. That's impossible. Your algorithm is just a trading program. It's a fraud detection system, I corrected. One that's been watching you for months. Every shell company, every fake investment, every attempt to hack our systems, it recorded everything. Daniel's companions backed away slowly. His facade cracked completely. You think this changes anything? He snarled. Your family's reputation is still ruined. The company will survive, grandmother said firmly. Truth has a way of healing things. My phone buzzed, a message from Evelyn, just saw the news. Daniel's other victims are coming forward. I'm so sorry, Joe. I should have believed you. It's over, Daniel, Paul said, turning his screen to show dozens of news headlines breaking simultaneously. The SEC has everything they need. Daniel lunged for the nearest computer, but security officers emerged from the shadows, my grandfather's most trusted team. Waiting for exactly this moment. As they led Daniel away, he caught my eye one last time. How long? He demanded. How long have you been planning this? I thought about years of being underestimated, of watching, learning, preparing. Since the moment you thought you could use my sister to steal my grandfather's legacy. After he was gone, Paul showed me the final piece, evidence that Daniel had been planning this for years, targeting other companies the same way. Your father's seeing this too? I asked. Grandfather nodded. Along with the board. Sometimes people need to learn the hard way who they can really trust. My phone lit up again, father calling. I let it ring. Aren't you going to answer? Grandmother asked. No, I said, watching the sunrise through the warehouse windows. They need to understand what it feels like to wait, to wonder if they've lost something precious forever. Paul squeezed my shoulder. What now? I thought about the Harvard acceptance letter, about revenge and justice, about family and trust. Now, I smiled, we rebuild. But this time, we do it right. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning the game, it's changing the rules entirely. The Carter Industries boardroom felt different now. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the empty chair where Daniel had once sat, plotting his takeover. My father stood at the head of the table, looking older than I remembered. The SEC investigation is complete, he said, sliding a folder across the polished surface. Daniel Reed will be facing federal charges. I didn't touch the folder. Is that all you wanted to tell me? Joe. He struggled with the words. The board has reviewed your restructuring proposal. The one I should have read last year. And they want to implement it immediately. He paused. Under your leadership. The words hung in the air between us. Through the glass walls, I could see Evelyn waiting outside, nervously shredding a paper cup. Grandfather's algorithm, I said quietly. It wasn't just about catching fraud, was it? No. He sank into his chair. It was about finding the right person to lead this company. Someone who could see past appearances, who understood both numbers and people. And you never thought that person could be me. I was wrong. The admission seemed to cost him physically. About many things. The door opened. Mother entered, followed by my grandparents. She carried a familiar envelope, my Harvard acceptance letter, carefully pieced back together. We can still make this work, she said. The Master of Business Administration program isn't what I want anymore. I stood, straightening my jacket. Neither is revenge. Grandfather Henry smiled knowingly. What do you want, pumpkin? I thought about the past months, the anger, the plotting, the satisfaction of bringing Daniel down. But mostly, I thought about what I'd learned about myself. I want to build something, I said. Not just run what's already here. And I want to do it my way. Paul appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. The new trading platform is ready. Should I proceed with the launch? I caught Grandmother Martha's eye. She nodded slightly, understanding what I was about to do. Actually, I said, I have a different proposal. I pulled up the business plan I'd been working on secretly, not just a restructuring, but a complete reimagining of Carter Industries. A merger of old and new, tradition and innovation. Two companies, I explained. The existing Carter Industries under your leadership, Dad. And a new digital finance division, built around grandfather's algorithm, under mine. Splitting the company. Father frowned. No. Strengthening it. Different approaches, shared resources, mutual protection. I turned to Evelyn. And I want you involved. She blinked in surprise. Me? Your social skills, my financial knowledge. Together, we could build something neither of us could create alone. Mother started to object, but grandfather raised his hand. It's perfect. The past and future, working in harmony. The board won't like it, father warned. The board doesn't have a choice, grandmother said firmly. Henry and I still hold controlling interest. And we're backing Joe's plan. Paul pulled up the contracts on his tablet. Everything's ready. Just needs signatures. I watched my father struggle with the decision. Finally, he picked up the stylus. You're not doing this for revenge anymore, are you? He asked. No. I smiled. I'm doing it because it's right. For the company, for this family, and for me. One by one, they signed, father, mother, Evelyn, my grandparents. As Paul processed the documents, I felt a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. To new beginnings. Evelyn offered tentatively. To building something better, I corrected. Outside the boardroom windows, the city stretched endlessly, full of possibilities. I thought about the torn acceptance letter, now carefully restored but no longer needed. Sometimes the best path forward isn't the one you originally planned. Sometimes it's the one you create yourself. Ready to get started? Paul asked. I looked at my family, broken, healing, changing, and felt something stronger than revenge, hope. Yes, I said. I think I finally am.
My name is Alexandra Bennett, and I have been married to Ethan Bennett for 15 long years. Our life, outwardly perfect, was a facade hiding a painful truth. It was a chilly evening in November when my world began to crumble. I returned home early from a friend's art exhibition, anticipating a quiet night with Ethan and our son Nathan. But what I found was the stark opposite. I heard their voices before I saw them, Ethan's and a woman's, hushed, yet passionate. Creeping closer, I heard words that cut through my heart like a serrated knife. Once she's out of the picture, we'll have it all, Isabel. Just a little longer. Ethan's voice slithered through the air. Isabel, his mistress, laughed, a sound so cold it could freeze blood. I can't wait to see the look on her face when she finds out. You're a genius, Ethan. Their cruel laughter echoed in the hallway, a sinister symphony that shattered my trust. I stood frozen, a statue of disbelief, as their plan to upend my life unfolded with each word. I had known about Ethan's infidelities, his late nights, the scent of foreign perfume, the lipstick stains I pretended not to see, but this was a betrayal of a different caliber. He wasn't just unfaithful, he was plotting against me, our son, our life. Stumbling back, I found myself in Nathan's room. He was my anchor, my 14-year-old, who looked so much like his father, but with a gentleness Ethan never possessed. Mom, you're home early. Nathan's voice was tinged with surprise. Is everything okay? I forced a smile, my heart breaking in silence. Everything's fine, honey. Just tired, that's all. I couldn't burden him, not yet. Not until I understood the full extent of Ethan's treachery. That night, as I lay in bed next to the man who had just vowed to dismantle my life, a plan began to take shape in my mind. Ethan thought he could discard me like an old toy, but I was not going to be a silent victim in his cruel game. The stakes were high, but I was ready to play. This was not just about me anymore, it was about Nathan, our future, and the justice we deserved. Ethan Bennett was about to learn that every action has its consequences, and I was going to be the one to teach him that lesson. Eleanor, my mother-in-law, was the unexpected ally in a house divided by secrets and lies. Despite her son's despicable nature, Eleanor's affection for me and Nathan had always been genuine. She was the first person I confided in about Ethan's betrayal. In the privacy of her quaint living room, with its floral curtains and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, I found the courage to speak. Eleanor, Ethan is planning to leave me for another woman. He's been plotting this for a while. Her reaction was a mix of anger and sorrow. That boy has always been selfish. But this, Alexandra, you and Nathan don't deserve this. Eleanor's empathy was a balm, but it was her next words that sparked a fire within me. We need to protect you and Nathan. Ethan can't just get away with this. The conversation turned to action. We needed a plan, one that would expose Ethan's true colors and safeguard our future. It was a game of chess, and we were 2 moves away from checkmate. Meanwhile, Nathan's bond with his father was disintegrating. I overheard their conversation one evening, a dialogue laced with disappointment and unspoken accusations. "Why are you never home, Dad? You missed my soccer game again." Nathan's voice was a mix of hurt and accusation. Ethan's response was dismissive, his usual defense mechanism. "Business, Nathan. You'll understand when you're older. Priorities, son." But Nathan was older than his years. "Mom's always there. Are we not your priority, Dad?" The conversation ended with Ethan walking away, a cowardly retreat from a confrontation he couldn't win. Nathan's eyes, so much like his father's, yet filled with a depth Ethan never had, met mine. We didn't need words. Our resolve was unspoken. Eleanor and I continued to weave our web. We gathered evidence, bank statements, photographs, and messages. Every piece was a testament to Ethan's betrayal. Our plan was taking shape, a strategy not just for revenge, but for justice. As I tucked Nathan into bed that night, his innocent face asleep in the moonlit room, my resolve hardened. This was no longer just a battle. It was a war for our dignity, for our future. Ethan Bennett, in his arrogance, had underestimated the strength of the bonds he sought to break. He was about to learn that the ties of kinship were stronger than his web of lies. The morning I decided to confront Ethan was draped in an eerie silence. I had rehearsed this moment in my mind, but nothing could prepare me for the reality of it. He was at the kitchen table, his back to me, engrossed in his phone. Without a word, I slid the envelope across the table. It contained the irrefutable evidence of his infidelity, pictures of him with Isabel, receipts from extravagant gifts, and damning messages. Ethan's reaction was a cocktail of shock, denial, and then, disgustingly, amusement. "You've been snooping around, Alexandra? Is this some sort of joke?" His attempt to downplay his betrayal only fueled my resolve. "This is no joke, Ethan. You've been planning to leave me for Isabel. I know everything." For a moment, Ethan's facade cracked, revealing the coward beneath. "Alexandra, let's be reasonable. We can sort this out." "Sort this out?" I echoed, my voice rising. "You want to abandon your family for your mistress, and you think we can sort this out?" The room was thick with tension, a tangible force that seemed to suffocate any remnants of love we once shared. Ethan's next words were the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. "Alexandra, you're overreacting. Isabel understands me in ways you never could. I need someone younger, more vibrant." His words were a slap in the face, a confirmation of every fear and insecurity I had ever felt in our marriage. But they also ignited a fire within me, a fire of defiance and strength. "Vibrant?" I retorted, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "Is that what you call betrayal these days?" It was clear then that there was no salvaging our marriage. Ethan had made his choice, and it was not me, not us. I left the room with a newfound determination. I would not be a victim of Ethan Bennett's selfish whims. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Meetings with lawyers, discussions with Eleanor, and late-night planning sessions. We were building a case, not just for divorce, but for justice. And then came the health scare, a routine checkup that turned into a series of tests, the results of which left me reeling. Possible breast cancer? The doctor had said, her voice a blend of professional detachment and sympathy. I was stunned, my mind a chaos of fear and uncertainty. But amidst the turmoil, a plan began to take shape. a plan that would expose Ethan's true nature once and for all. "We'll tell Ethan about the diagnosis," Eleanor suggested during one of our strategy meetings. "Let's see if there's any humanity left in him." It was a gamble, but one we were willing to take. Ethan's reaction to my potential illness would be the ultimate test of his character. It was a test I was almost certain he would fail. The day we decided to reveal my diagnosis to Ethan, the air in the house was thick with anticipation. Eleanor had come over, her presence a source of strength as I prepared to face my husband. Ethan returned home late, as usual, the smell of expensive cologne and deceit clinging to him. Eleanor and I sat in the living room, the envelope containing my medical reports on the coffee table. His eyes flickered with a blend of curiosity and irritation as he walked in. "Alexandra, what's this about?" "You said it was urgent." Ethan's voice held a note of impatience. I took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "Ethan, I went to the doctor last week. They suspect it might be breast cancer." The words hung in the air, heavy with the gravity of their implication. I watched Ethan closely, searching for a flicker of concern, of love. But what I saw was far more chilling. "Breast cancer? That's unfortunate," Ethan said, his voice devoid of warmth. "But what does this mean for us?" Us. The word echoed mockingly in the room. There was no us, not anymore. Eleanor's gaze was piercing, her disappointment in her son palpable. "It means, Ethan, that your wife needs you now more than ever. She needs your support." Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting between the envelope and the door. "Right, of course. We'll figure this out. I need some air." And with that, he left, his retreat as cowardly as it was revealing. His reaction, or lack thereof, was all the confirmation we needed. Eleanor's hand found mine, her grip firm. "We know what we have to do, Alexandra." The following weeks were a blur of activity. My condition worsened according to the narrative we fed Ethan. His visits were sporadic, brief, and devoid of any real concern. It was clear that his thoughts were elsewhere, with Isabel, with his escape plan. But Ethan wasn't the only one making plans. Eleanor and I, with the help of my lawyer, were meticulously crafting the trap that would strip Ethan of his power and reveal his true nature to the world. The climax of our plan came one evening when Ethan returned home to find his belongings packed in boxes, his precious possessions stripped from their usual places. "What the hell is this, Alexandra?" Ethan exploded, his composure finally cracking. "It's over, Ethan," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "I know about Isabel, about your plans to leave me, and I won't be a silent bystander in your little drama anymore." Ethan's face was a canvas of rage and disbelief. "You can't do this to me. I'm Ethan Bennett. You're nothing without me." But he was wrong. I was Alexandra Bennett, and I was more than he would ever understand. This was my retribution, my stand against the man who had vowed to love and protect me, but had chosen betrayal instead. As Ethan stormed out, his threats and curses echoing through the empty house, I felt a sense of liberation. The facade was gone, and the truth was laid bare. Eleanor stood by my side, her presence a testament to the strength of the bonds that Ethan had tried and failed to sever. "You did well, Alexandra. Now let's see this through to the end." The day of reckoning had arrived. The morning air was crisp and charged with a sense of impending justice as Eleanor and I prepared for the final act of our plan against Ethan. I sat in the lawyer's office, my fingers nervously tapping on the polished mahogany desk. Today we were to confront Ethan with the divorce papers and the full extent of his financial betrayal. The evidence was laid out neatly in folders, each document a testament to his greed and deceit. Eleanor was a rock beside me, her resolve as firm as her disapproval of her son's actions. "He won't see this coming," she whispered, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. The door opened, and Ethan walked in, his usual arrogance replaced with a hint of unease. He glanced at the documents, then at us, his expression one of wary confusion. "What's this about, Alexandra? Why am I here?" Ethan's voice was cautious, a far cry from his usual dismissive tone. I took a deep breath, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "This is about the end, Ethan, the end of our marriage and the end of your lies." Ethan's eyes widened as he flipped through the documents, bank statements, property deeds, evidence of his financial infidelities, all laid bare for him to see. "This can't be happening," he muttered, his composure slipping. You can't do this to me. Eleanor leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. You did this to yourself, Ethan. You chose betrayal over your family. Now you face the consequences. The lawyer, a stern woman with an air of unyielding authority, began to outline the terms of the divorce, the division of assets, the alimony, the child support, each point a nail in the coffin of Ethan's grand plans. Ethan's protests grew more desperate, his pleas more pathetic. You can't leave me with nothing. I'm your husband, Alexandra. We can work this out. But it was too late for negotiations, too late for remorse. There's nothing left to work out, Ethan. You made your choice. Now, I'm making mine. The meeting ended with Ethan storming out, his threats of revenge and legal battles echoing hollowly in the office. But his words held no power over me anymore. I had seen the man behind the mask, and I was no longer afraid. As we left the lawyer's office, Eleanor's hand found mine, a silent show of solidarity and strength. You're free, Alexandra. You and Nathan can start anew. And she was right. Despite the turmoil and pain, I felt a sense of liberation, a weight lifted from my shoulders. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Ethan Bennett would learn that the price of betrayal was high, and I would be there to ensure he paid it in full. The house felt eerily quiet after Ethan's departure, the silence a stark contrast to the years of deceit and turmoil. But in that stillness, there was a sense of emerging victory. Nathan, now aware of the full extent of his father's betrayal, was a pillar of support. "Mom, we're better off without him," he said one evening as we sat in the living room, a space that once echoed with Ethan's false promises. I nodded, pride swelling in my heart for the young man my son had become. "Yes, Nathan, we are." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Ethan, stripped of his bravado, was a shadow of the man he once pretended to be. His once lavish lifestyle crumbled under the weight of the financial restrictions Eleanor and I had imposed. Then came the day of the final hearing. The courthouse was a monument to justice, its hallowed halls a fitting backdrop for Ethan's downfall. As we entered the courtroom, Ethan's eyes met mine, a mix of anger and desperation in his gaze. But I was no longer the woman he thought he could manipulate and control. The judge, a stern figure of authority, called the court to order. The proceedings were a blur, but each word from the judge was a strike against Ethan's fortress of lies. "You have not only failed in your duties as a husband and father, Mr. Bennett, but you have also squandered your family's resources for selfish gains," the judge said, his voice echoing through the room. Ethan's plea for leniency fell on deaf ears. The evidence of his infidelity and financial misconduct was overwhelming. The judge's verdict was swift and unyielding. "You are hereby ordered to pay substantial alimony and child support. Furthermore, your assets will be divided as per the agreed-upon terms." Ethan's face drained of color, his future as bleak as the judgment being passed. He had lost everything: his family, his reputation, and now his wealth. As we left the courtroom, Nathan's hand in mine, I felt a sense of closure. The legal battle was over, and justice had been served. Ethan's reign of deceit had come to an end, and with it, the chapter of our lives that he had tainted. We stepped out into the sunlight, the world seeming brighter, more hopeful. Nathan looked up at me, a smile on his face. "Mom, we did it. We're free." Yes, we were free. Free from Ethan's lies, free from the shadows of the past. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope and the promise of a brighter future. Ethan Bennett had learned the hard way that the wheels of justice, though they grind slowly, grind exceedingly fine. The days following the court's decision were a time of reflection and renewal. The house, once a battleground of secrets and lies, now resonated with the promise of a new beginning. Nathan and I spent our days planning for the future, a future unmarred by Ethan's shadow. One afternoon, as the golden light of the setting sun filled the living room, Nathan turned to me, his eyes thoughtful. "Mom, do you ever regret it? Marrying Dad, I mean." I paused, considering the weight of the question. "No, Nathan. Despite everything, I don't regret it. Your father gave me the greatest gift, you, and through all this, I've found a strength I never knew I had." Nathan nodded, understanding reflecting in his eyes. "I'm proud of you, Mom. You stood up to him, fought back. It wasn't just for me, Nathan. It was for us, for our future," I said, reaching out to squeeze his hand. In the weeks that followed, news of Ethan's downfall spread. His reputation, once that of a successful businessman, was now tarnished beyond repair. But our focus was no longer on Ethan's fate. It was on rebuilding our lives. Eleanor remained a constant presence, her support unwavering. "You've both been so strong," she said one day as we shared a quiet lunch. "I'm sorry Ethan couldn't be the man you deserved, Alexandra." "Eleanor, you've been more than family to me," I replied, gratitude welling in my heart. "You and Harrison have shown us kindness and love more than I could have asked for." As the seasons changed, so did our lives. Nathan excelled in his studies, his resilience shining through, and I found solace in my work, my art, rediscovering passions I had long suppressed under Ethan's shadow. One evening, as Nathan and I sat on the porch watching the stars twinkle in the night sky, I felt a sense of peace. The pain of the past was fading, leaving behind lessons and newfound strength. "Mom, what's next for us?" Nathan asked, his voice filled with hope. "Whatever we want, Nathan. We have a whole world to explore, dreams to chase. We're free to live our lives on our terms," I said, my heart full of optimism. We sat there, mother and son, looking up at the vast expanse of the night sky, our hearts light with the promise of new beginnings. The darkness of the past was behind us, and ahead lay a path illuminated by the light of our courage and love. Ethan Bennett's shadow had been lifted, and in its place was the bright dawn of our new life, a life built on truth, strength, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her son.